and welcome. I'm John Bach.
And I'm Bianca Della Garza. Thanks so much for being with us this Tuesday, everyone. Want to show you a live look at what's happening right now in Buffalo here. President Biden expected to come out any moment at the Dell Van Grinder Community Center in Buffalo, New York. You can see Chuck Schumer there is speaking to the crowd that have gathered to share some remarks and remember the victims of this tragedy. A bit earlier today, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visiting a memorial at the Tops Market in Buffalo, the scene of the crime. They also met privately with survivors and family of those 10 people killed in this racist attack. Again, President Biden is scheduled to deliver remarks in about an hour, could be a little bit before that, at that community center. He is expected, John, to call for stricter gun laws and urge Americans to reject racism.
Meanwhile, many of you have seen how the left is trying to use this shooting to smear conservatives, and they think they've found an angle here with this great replacement conspiracy theory, a theory that Chuck Schumer and other progressives are using to portray anyone who supports stricter immigration policies as racist.
Every time MAGA Republicans or pundits vilify wrongly immigrants and call them invaders, every time they falsely claim that millions of undocumented people cast ballots in our elections, every time loud, bigoted voices bemoan the disintegration of an imagined classic America, the subtext is clear. These hard-right MAGA Republicans argue that people of color and minority communities are somehow posing a threat to the American way of life.
No serious Republican is arguing that, but even some members of the Republican Party are in on this conspiracy theory, including Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming. She's accusing the House Republican leadership of enabling racism. Maybe she's just bitter that she's no longer part of the GOP Republican leadership in the House. Politics is downstream from culture, as they say. Enter Rolling Stone magazine with this terrible take on the shooting. The magazine has been rightfully criticized for commentary calling the shooter a mainstream Republican, adding that, quote, the right-wing extremists who control the modern GOP are gripped by a racist delusion. The shooter is just the latest to act on it, they say. Okay. What do we really know, though, about the great replacement theory? Ben Shapiro wisely pointed out, if you want to be accurate about the great replacement theory, it is a conspiracy theory about Jewish elites shipping minorities to change the racial stock of a country. That is precisely what the Buffalo shooter says and is echoed by neither political party. Now, the Buffalo shooter really is a perfect example of what some people call the political horseshoe theory. And that's to say that the political spectrum is not a linear thing per se. It's more like a horseshoe where the extreme right and the extreme left are actually closer together than most of us, be it Democrat or Republican. Let's talk about this now with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. He joins us live. Senator, great to have you with us.
Good morning.
It's good afternoon now, but I don't know. I think you're in Washington, D.C. Time is a relative thing, of course. Now, I want to get your thoughts, though, on the Democrats who keep pushing this great replacement theory as some sort of issue that we're all complicit with as Republicans.
You know, I'd never heard of it till news reports are coming out, and I'm not sure I still understand exactly what it is, but I know of no one in the Republican Party who's ever talked any such nonsense. And I think that when these shootings happen and we find we should look for solutions, and one of the things I keep coming back to is that there are a lot of warning signals, but perhaps also crimes that are committed by these people in advance. It's 17 different crimes, was never arrested, never prosecuted. Mm-hmm. Now, this young man, I think there are some accusations that he was making some threats, and the threats were investigated. Perhaps what we need to do, I'm all for everybody getting their day in court, but if you're making threats, I think we need to be maybe more aggressive with trying to prosecute these people in hopes that we might save lives.
Yeah, it does seem like there's interaction with law enforcement oftentimes before these things happen, and you're left to wonder, why was it not prevented? Now, the president is expected to speak here pretty soon. He's going to make some remarks in an hour. Do you expect to hear anything in his speech that will actually unify us as a country?
I assume he will do what Democrats typically do, and politicize this. And in the wake of the tragedy, I think the emphasis should be on the tragic loss of life and on those lives. And instead, I think there will be an attempt to somehow politicize this and talk about gun control. And I think that's inappropriate in the wake of such a horrible tragedy. I think our our sympathy and our hearts, our minds, our prayers, all of that should be going towards those who lost their lives in this, the heroes who tried to stop it. But politicizing it, I think, is a big mistake.
Let's talk about the Ukrainian aid bill. Yesterday, the Senate voted to advance the bill despite your objections. And we understand a lot of people do why you'd want an inspector general here, but it seems like Russia is on the ropes right now, and any delay could blunt the progress being made by Ukrainians.
Well, we gave them $14 billion about a month ago. That's pretty quick spend time, to spend down $14 billion in a month. When this passes, and it'll pass on Thursday, they'll have gotten approximately $60 billion over the last several years, but 54 of it in the last 2 months. This is approximately equal to what Russia spends in a year. So I don't think anybody's been stingy with aid. In fact, I think at this point, we have to be concerned about the value of our dollar and the stability of our dollar. We've borrowed nearly $6 trillion in the last couple of years. In the last 2 months, we've added another $150 billion. As soon as this goes out the door, later on this week, the Democrats are going to be asking for $47 billion more to bail out restaurants because of the pandemic lockdowns. So somebody's got to be fiscally conservative. I may be the last one standing, but I'm going to continue to say, if you want to spend $40 billion, find it somewhere. They could have found this in the military budget that we've already allocated. They could have said to the American people, why don't we have a $500 tax on everybody? That's about what it would cost, is a $500 tax on every income taxpayer in our country. But I'm guessing that maybe if people have to pay for things, they might also think twice about it. So I don't know. I think it's a good idea to pay for things and not just to borrow.
I think a lot of people agree with you, but this is a land war in Russia. And don't you think that Russia's failures in Ukraine, buoyed by this U.S. support for the Ukrainian military, things like that have afforded China's designs on Taiwan? I think China is looking to see if we have the resolve to see this through.
I think it's a fool's errand to give money without watching how it's spent. The Special Inspector General for Afghanistan has been watching over it, and even he wasn't able to prevent the waste, but he was able to find some of the waste and I think prevent some of the criminality. That's what we proposed. I think if you give $40 billion without adequate oversight, we'll be back here a year from now talking about how much money was stolen. And so, no, I think it's a big mistake. But I think we have an enormous budget. It's like $4 trillion. This should have come from someplace that we don't need it as much. If it really is a threat to our national security, then take it from some other place. Just a month ago, they doubled the amount of money we spend on the National Science Foundation, which has such great research as if you take a selfie of yourself while smiling and then look at it later in the day, will that make you happy? That was over $1 million. But we have $50 billion worth of studies like this, a lot of it from the National Science Foundation. And just a month ago, Republicans and Democrats doubled the budget for the National Science Foundation. So there's got to be somebody up here who's cranky enough to point out all the waste and all the expenditures. And I guess it's me this week.
I guess so. And, to your point, we just did a story yesterday about $160 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse in these COVID payments. I also want to ask you about what we reported yesterday about the National Institutes of Health and these royalty payments. Anthony Fauci, the highest paid bureaucrat, received 23 royalty payments. That's on top of his taxpayer-funded salary of $56,000 a year. Also, Francis Collins, the former NIH director, from 2009 to 2021, received 14 payments on top of his $200,000 a year salary. That's according to Open Books, based on information that actually was provided by the NIH. So, I think you're right. I don't know if we can afford to not pay Ukraine, considering there's a land war in Europe going on right now, but the money could be found in other places.
Yeah, I've looked at this, and I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, and I'm working together with other senators to get this information. If you looked at that report, over half of it's redacted. They're trying to cover their tracks where the money came. Now, Fauci claims that he's donated it, so I think he ought to release his tax returns. Everybody's harping on President Trump's tax returns. Why don't we see Fauci's tax returns and make sure he's being honest with us that it all has been donated? Why don't we know exactly how much he gets and which companies he gets from? That same article indicated that he got $1 million prize from a foundation. Is that foundation connected anyway to the pharmaceutical industry? I don't know the truth of any of this, but I know I have trouble figuring out the truth when the NIH redacts all their documents and appears to be hiding the information. So I'm going to do everything I can while in the minority. If we get in the majority, I promise you I will use the subpoena power. We will leave no stone unturned until all of that information is public.
I mean, isn't that the reason why somebody like Dr. Fauci could justify making $400,000 a year so they wouldn't be tempted to double dip or have alternative sources of income which could compromise them?
For goodness sakes, if we're going to pay a bureaucrat that much, they shouldn't be making outside income. You know, members of Congress are not allowed to make outside income. So while, you know, we're not allowed to be on a retainer for a pharmaceutical company, we're not allowed to work in conjunction with research. I'm not even allowed to see patients. So no, I think it's a different standard for all time. Let's see Dr. Fauci's tax returns. Let's see if he's telling us the truth. But let's also see the individual royalties he's making, and then let's look at his decisions on the money that's going out. I wanted to get rid of his position completely because I think he's too powerful, makes too much money, and directs too much research. I would have divided his position into 3 and hired 3 new people and said bye-bye, you know, to Dr. Fauci. He needs to retire. But somebody's got to oversee this better than what we've got going now.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if the results were obvious, but they're not. And it's time to question Dr. Fauci a little bit deeper. Yeah, they released how many royalty payments they had, but they redacted what they actually made. Lots of questions still remain there. Senator Rand Paul, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.